Welcome to the Growth Now movement. I'm your host, Justin Shank. I'm an entrepreneur, speaker, and podcaster who years ago decided to go on a journey on how to grow in all areas of my life. What I found out was it's really a matter of focusing on the 4 pillars of life: business, relationships, spirituality, and wellness. And that's what we do here. We explore how to continuously grow in those areas, all while having a ton of fun doing it. I'm really excited you're on this journey with me. Now let's get to this week's episode. This week, I sit down with Andrew Rosen. Andrew is the president of Diversified LLC. In his role as president, he sets the strategic direction which focuses on providing our clients and employees with everything they need to achieve their goals and dreams. Now, as a financial planner, Andrew forges lifelong relationships with clients, coaching them through all stages of life and guiding them to better achieve their life goals. Andrew loves helping others by spreading his knowledge on finance, investments, and the pursuit of happiness/fulfillment, which is actually a lot of what we talk about today. How do you set yourself up financially in order to live the life that you desire in all areas? We talk about health, we talk about wealth, we talk about all the amazing things we usually dive into on this episode, and I think you guys are really going to love Andrew. Now, before we dive into the episode, I want to remind you guys that Growth Now Summit Live is coming in May of 2021 right here in Lidditz, Pennsylvania. I think you guys are absolutely going to love the event we're putting together. I just announced Nick Santonastasso as one of the keynote speakers. The cool part is, on the Friday of the event, we're doing workshops where you can deep dive and truly learn those types of environments where you actually take notes and then implement them into your life. And actually, Andrew is one of those breakout speakers. He's going to be talking about setting yourself up financially so you can truly live the life that you want for yourself and for your family and everything else in between. I think it's such an important subject matter that not many people dive into. And for you guys to learn from this expert, it's going to be game-changing. So make sure you grab your tickets now, growthnowsummit.com. There's about 65-ish tickets left. Might be less than that by the time you hear this, but I want to let you guys know that I would love to see you there, connect with you, give you a hug and a high five. And not only are you learning the X's and O's of life, you actually get to be motivated and inspired and connect with like-minded people so you can live the life that you truly desire. growthnowsummit.com. Grab your tickets now. Now, without further ado, let's dive into the episode with Andrew Rosen. Andrew, welcome to the show, man.
Justin, nice to be here. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No, for sure, man. I'm excited to dive into a bunch of the topics that I know we're going to touch on. And I just want to start out with you explaining to my audience, who is Andrew today? And then we'll break down how you got there. And then we're going to drop all the knowledge on him.
Great. I love it. So Andrew today is a father, a husband, an entrepreneur, and a financial advocate for my clients. So I am president of Diversified. We call ourselves your lifelong advisors because we create these relationships with clients that span a lifetime, guiding them, giving them advice. But really, at the end of the day, all these things lead to Andrew at his core wants to help better and move the people in my life forward.
No, I love it. And, we had originally connected and I was on your show, and I love what your show is all about, which is, health, wealth, and happiness. And when you look at those 3 things, it's very similar to my 4 pillars, which is why I think that we really hit it off, to understand that life is more than just one stream of something. It's more than just money. It's more than just relationships. It's more than just, right? There's so much more. Now, where did that idea come from, and where did that begin to be your focus? Because obviously, being in the financial world, I know a lot of financial advisors. I know a lot of people who do what you do, good, bad, or indifferent, because they're all over the board.
Sure.
But I love the holistic approach that you take. Where did that come from?
Yeah. So our firm was founded on comprehensive financial planning before it was in vogue. This industry was an investment-focused industry for decades and decades before our firm was founded by a gentleman by the name of Frank Levy in the 70s, really was a pillar to the comprehensive holistic planning. And so we've always tried to be on the forefront and a step ahead of where, I guess, the industry is, I would say, and doing a lot of soul searching and reflecting on our clients and their needs. It really, when you're in there in the trenches talking to individuals about their finances, everything else bleeds out. They start talking about their health and can they afford to go here or there, and you really start to see what it's about. It's not just what we do is financial planning. why we do it is to elicit our clients complete and utter happiness. And much like everything in life, I mean, even when you look more granular at financial planning, taxes affects your investments, affects your estate planning, affects your insurances, and your so on and so forth. Your wealth is affected by your health and your happiness. And so to us, that's the triad, and really stem through trying to stay a step ahead of where the industry is at, and just be that lightning rod for our clients and helping them live their best lives. I mean, that's what it's about. If we can do that with everyone we touch, that's a major success. And that helps me put my head on the pillow at night.
No, I love it. And I've noticed over the course of this podcast of 5.5 years and 400 plus episodes, I mean, I've talked to people from all walks of life. I mean, there have been people on this show that were probably making $15,000 a year. And there have been people on the show worth $500 million. But the difference was they all found happiness in some shape or form, right? They might have been chasing something. They might have had a goal. They might have whatever. But what have you noticed in the financial space, as long as you've been in it? Like, what's the tie to happiness and wealth? And I think this is an important topic because a lot of times, especially in the entrepreneur space, we're told to go chase massive amounts of money. And I don't necessarily think that's the happiness. What is your correlation that you see happiness and wealth?
Yeah. So it's a great question, Justin. The wealth to me is an enabler to happiness. It is not happiness encapsulated. If I gave you $10 million tomorrow, you're not instantly happy. As a matter of fact, some of the most miserable people I ever came across are filthy rich. The concept is that your wealth should surround and absorb your happiness. And and let's give an example. So many people don't spend enough time focusing first and foremost on what makes them happy. So I like to sit down with an individual and really get to their goals and get to what drives them, what's their why as a human being. Because then it becomes a much easier approach to say, okay, Justin, you want to travel the world and spend time doing this, that, the other. Let's create a plan and a wealth model that will support what you're admitting makes you happy, versus having this pie in the sky mentality of, what'll make me happy? Having another car, another BMW, another house. And what these people are doing is they're always playing catch up, right? They satisfy one, they quench one thirst, and now it's on to the next, versus slowing down and saying, for who, for what, right? You're a Philly guy, right? Ricky Water's coming. And so I think that not enough people slow down and internalize their happiness first, and then say, great, let's live a life that supports it. What does that mean? And then once you do that, it's easy to put dollars and cents to something. That's the easiest part about it, quite frankly. That's sort of how this has come to be.
No, I love it, man. And, obviously we were talking before we record, and you're local to me. You're in the Philadelphia area, and I'm a little bit further west than you. And I grew up down south in Jersey, and so did you. And so we've connected on all these levels, and you're sitting right now in your vacation home at the Jersey Shore. And as you know, we're searching for a vacation home at the Jersey Shore. Let's talk a little bit about that, right? Like, you live this life as most people would look and go, wow, that's happiness. Now, you were just talking about taking your wealth and fitting it into the happiness. Like, where did all this idea come from? How much planning was involved in creating the life that you live now? And then we'll talk. Then I want to get into the financial piece of how people can set this up.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great question. So for me personally, my wife and I sat down many years ago and we had aspirations. We wanted to live in a certain house in the Philly suburbs, and check. We wanted our 3 kids. Check. We wanted to drive nice enough cars. I was never a car junkie, but check. I wanted to run a successful company. I always wanted it. That's been a goal of mine since I was, 10 years old. I could see my dad do it in his life. I guess you grow up with it, and there's something appealing to wanting to be like your father. And then the beach home. So like you mentioned, I grew up here and down the Jersey Shore. And to me, this was summers, even when I lived in Philly and had no money to my name, just the summer that comes crash at my folks' house, and it didn't take down my Pamela Anderson poster from the ceiling. And so, I'd come down, and this was summer. And my wife had a taste of that when she was growing up. And so we discussed together, which I think is a very critical exercise in figuring out your happiness, is bring in those that you support and support you in life, and you have a serious relationship as well, and discuss what you want to get out of it. And that's sort of how this whole thing came to fruition. And now, amazingly, I've hit limits in areas in my life and success that I only dreamed of, and it's exciting. And it's hard, because when you achieve it young, it's what's next.
Yeah.
And what's the next thing? Is there something next at 40, hitting your life goals, so now it's a shift in mentality for sure.
Yeah, no. And almost like a downshift, right? Like, I'm not a car enthusiast either, but it's like you have to downshift to be like, okay, like, is this the fulfillment I've wanted? And is that enough long-term? Right now, maybe the goals kind of land into a different realm. I think goals are important. Like, one thing I say very, very often is goals are important for a direction. But the goals aren't the thing that's going to attain the happiness for you, right? It's not going to, like, I've seen it all the time. If somebody says, I want to make $1 million, and they go make $1 million, and immediately they go, okay, how do I make 10? Right? There's no actual fulfillment in that. So my question for you is, this is a question that I ask in a different way most of the time, and we'll get to how I ask it later. But what is your definition of happiness? Like, did you have the happiness before you had all of these things? Does that make sense as a question?
Yeah, it does. It does. And that's a nuanced question and answer, I would say. So I've always been a happy individual, right? There were certainly stressful periods in my life, or struggling in business, or not where I wanted to be. And admittedly, it weighed on me because I knew I had more. And when you expect to be here and you're not there, it becomes frustrating.
Right.
And so I was always happy, but understanding that where I wanted to get to, where I wanted my life to be, is in where it is today, quite frankly. And so that's okay. I know I've heard you say that it's about the journey a lot of times, and it truly is, and appreciating the journey. And a practice I really tried to take into my life over the past year or so is gratitude and meditation. And I've really enjoyed it, because it's allowed me to reflect and not get bogged down and not get too worried, because even when I've hit what I always dreamed of, I still had angst. I still wanted more, and I felt this insatiable sort of thirst to want more. And it's for what, right? The age old question is, what happens when you achieve your goals? Right? That's a serious question for people to contemplate. You wanted a beach house, you wanted to retire at 50. Okay, right? This has been a motivator. You want a successful podcast thing beyond belief. Let's be honest, you are well more successful than you probably start out this venture going. Yeah. And now what, right? So I think, to me, it's how do I harness that energy for good, right? A lot of what I do now is not profitable. It's not about dollars and cents. It's about fulfillment for me and for others, because I've realized that is what brings me ultimate joy and happiness. And it's a challenge. It really is. And it's constant work. It's not a set and forget, or you achieve it and you sail into the sunset.
Yeah, I think having drive, or you use the term thirst, having drive to push forward in life is the thing that keeps us, for lack of a better term, not that we're old men, but keeps us young. It keeps us driven. And as we get into our, what are the twilight years, a 60s, 70s, 80-year-old, like, that keeps us young, right?
having that drive is super important. And I also like the idea of always be happy, but never satisfied, because that drive comes from the lack of satisfaction because we hold ourselves to a higher standard. And I love that idea. And obviously you're very much a similar individual and you think the same of, I hold myself to a higher standard because I want to provide for my loved ones. I want to enjoy the life that I want to live. And this, you do the same thing for your clients too. And I want to get into that a little bit. Talk about, how do you set up this success for your clients? And I'm sure you have clients from all walks of life and all different, income levels and so on and so forth. What's the approach you normally take with them?
Hey guys, really quick, I wanted to take a second and talk about podcasting. Why? Because this medium has been the greatest thing to ever happen to me. A little over 5.5 years ago, I bought a $60 microphone and everything in my life has changed. I've gone on to build a successful business, live events, a lucrative speaking career, and I've been able to connect and become friends with some of the most influential thought leaders in the world, all because of podcasting. Now, you might not know this about me, but I've also helped multiple other people do the same thing. I usually work one-on-one with high-ticket clients to help them really build their brand. But so many people were asking me, Justin, I need to know the secret. So I've actually put together a masterclass. So if you head over to purposedrivenpodcaster.com, you can sign up for the masterclass today and learn exactly how I've been able to build this business, and you can too. This course is for wannabe podcasters and also podcasters who aren't getting the results that they want. Again, head over to purposedrivenpodcaster.com, grab your masterclass now, dive in and take your life to the next level.
Yeah. So what we try to do, Justin, is first of all, as a company, we have a firm philosophy of always reinvesting in our clients, our company, and our employees, so that it's not about just lining our pockets. It's how can we do better? I want to do better. I want to do better than the next guy. I have a competitive edge to me, but I really want to do better for our clients' sake because they deserve better. And so what the engagement really looks like when we start getting into the trenches is understanding really three components of our clients' lives at the core. One is a snapshot in time. I can't do my job as a financial surgeon or as a financial professional without understanding what we have to work with. Incomes, assets, debts, liability, you name it, taxes. We have to get in the trenches and get that snapshot. That's first and foremost. Next thing we have to really understand for our clients is those goals. Where do they want to get to? I want to retire at 62. I want to have a beach home. I want to travel to whatever it is. It's not for me to say, it's for us to listen. And we work with leading psychiatrists and happiness coaches that actually have helped train us on pushing our clients to really get the real answer, not the answer their spouse wants to hear or that we want to hear. And it has been cool. It's been eye-opening for us. And so understanding where they want to get to, right? So we have that clear pot at the end of the rainbow. Then the last question is really, and the last thing we try to elicit from our clients, which I think is critical, and to me it's the glue that holds it all together, is the why, is what does make them happy, and pushing them, right? Not just saying, family, it's let's dig deeper. Let's go below the surface and understand why these things are so critical. And once we get a satisfactory answer, we lock it, right? Not that things can't adjust as time as you hit goals and dreams and you can't adjust. But what's important is if we keep these three things front and center in all our relationships forever, where you're at, where you're going, and the motivation and reason why, and making sure that it's an altruistic, it's an honest one, not just to make more money, but to have a better satisfaction in life. Not that there's anything wrong with making more money, but now I feel we are in a position to be a partner, a lifelong partner with our clients, and keep them heading in the right direction, not get drawn off track or off course by the shiny thing. Right? My neighbor did this. My friend did that. I had a friend recently. He wants to buy a house and looking for an absurd level expensive house. And after talking with my buddy and client, I was like, look, yes, you can afford it, but why? Right? Is it going to bring anything more in your life, or is it just going to be more rooms you're not going to go in? And slowly and surely, he actually, I didn't think he would. He's backed down from his major aspirations and set his target a little lower because he realized it's not aligned. It's not aligned with who he is and where he wants to go. And it's that type of stuff in conjunction with all the financial planning jargon and technology and expertise that we bring to the table. But it's that excites me, and I think really sets us differently and position well for our clients' success.
No, I love that, man. As I was thinking, we talk about setting yourselves up for success financially, and a lot of young entrepreneurs listen to this. And by young entrepreneurs, I don't mean an age thing. I mean people who are just getting into the work, right? This is kind of why Inc. Magazine listed this show as a top 8 podcast for entrepreneurs, because we want to be able to give tactical advice. Like, what can somebody do right now to set themselves up for the future long term? I know this is a very broad question. My uncle being in the financial world, I hear it all the time. Like, you can't pinpoint one thing, but what do you suggest for a young entrepreneur who doesn't have a retirement fund, doesn't have a 401k, doesn't have all these things? What can they begin to do now to make sure that, hey, if they want to retire at 55, how can they do it without blowing up and making millions of dollars in a day or two?
Yeah, there's a couple ways that I would answer that, Justin. My best piece of advice for any young entrepreneur is twofold. One is that do the things that unsuccessful people are willing to do, right? That's plain and simple. You want to succeed, you want to be an entrepreneur. It is not a 9-to-5 job. You know it. Well, I've spoken to you after hours on weekend. It doesn't matter, right? That is part of the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
So do the things unsuccessful people are unwilling to do. The other thing, which is probably counterintuitive to what you would expect a financial planner to say, is at that young infancy stage of entrepreneurship, invest in the best yielding return you can. And I'll tell you what it is, because it's not Amazon stock, it's not Netflix, and it sure as heck ain't Bitcoin. You invest in yourself. Right. And I think you can attest to it. You're a smart, savvy person and very accomplished. I like to try to think of myself as that, at least when I look in the mirror, it's what I try to see. But the reality is the best investments I made by far are investing in Andrew Rosen or investing in myself, because I've taken that and I've made tenfold on it. Financially, I've received thousandfold in intrinsic reward, emotionally and happiness wise. And so you're starting out, we'll have time to do the tactical, invest in a 401k and save this much of your income and don't overspend, right? But invest in yourself. There's no other better investment out there. So those are my 2 critical pieces of advice for a young entrepreneur.
That's huge. And I mean, you talk about investing in yourself. I think that has been the game changer for me every time I've leveled up in business, right? Like whether it be to invest to go to an event, which is kind of where I started. Like, hey, I can afford this $200 ticket to this event. And, then progressing as you progress into, stretching your finances to afford a coach that's tens of thousands of dollars a year to say, hey, I'm ready to double down on myself. And that's really has been the game changer for me, is to say, how much can I allot every year to investing in myself? And what are the smart moves in order to do it? Because there's a lot of options out there. There's a lot of opportunity. Dude, I love that advice. I mean, that's absolutely game changing for sure. And as we're having this conversation, I love the fact that this is how I viewed success in my life. Like, I wanted the beach house. I wanted the nice house in the suburbs of Philly. I wanted all these things. You didn't go to the internet and go, okay, cool. That guy's got that. I want that. That girl's got that. I want that. Like, you didn't do any of that stuff. And I think that's a huge key to understanding what happiness is when you're not looking at other people. So my question for you is, number one, what's your definition of success? And then the second part of that question is, what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
Yeah. So I define success as being unconstrained to do what I want and to provide for those that I love. That's it, right? And so I wanted a beach house, I got a beach house. I wanted to live in a nice fancy house, I did it. There's a lot of things I can afford and don't choose to, and I see people, and no one sees people's income more than me, and I see people with much less income who yearn for much more. And doesn't excite me, because again, I'm not looking at the outside world to define my success. It's what I want. It's what makes me happy. There's no better moment in my life than sitting on my porch at my beach house, listening to my Sonos radio with the summer breeze, and I don't care who's around me, who's watching, having a glass of red wine or a nice cocktail in my hand, and that's it. I've arrived. It's spectacular to me, and it's not just for me; it's for my family and my friends who, my in-laws are here right now, staying with us, and it's great. It's great to share this with those that I love. So that's how I would define success to me. 3 things that I do every day that I believe have helped to contribute to my success. And I'll answer that today, not from 10 years ago, because I think it's changed over time. One is I meditate every day, 11 minutes. I use the Headspace app, and the old adage is, if you don't have time to do it, you need it more than anyone. Yeah. Right? Like, I just have grown immensely as a human being and as a business owner and a leader by it's taking the time to unplug for 10 minutes. It's not much. 2 is exercise. I know you're a big fan of this. You're a walker, which I'll get you running or biking with me someday on the boardwalk.
Just sounds awful, man.
You know why? Because it's terrible, but you're done quicker. That's right. I'm an efficiency monster, right? So exercise, and I truly, really enjoy it. And the other is I always want to better myself in my craft. So I'm always trying to learn from others. I go to study groups with other practices, small or bigger, it doesn't matter. I've done coaching. Some have been a massive failure, but it doesn't matter. As long as I learn one thing from them, it's a success. Right? I can spend $10,000 on a coaching thing and get one actionable item. That to me becomes a win. So if I invest in bettering my business practice and acumen, if I can spend time to detach and clear my head, and you had a saying when I interviewed you that I absolutely love, which is be selfish so you can be selfless. I mean, that's stuck with me since we spoke months ago and started becoming friends. And then the exercising, right? I mean, it's just critical. It releases those endorphins and gets me more energized. Days I exercise, I mean, just hurt my back 2 days ago, and so I've been on the sidelines for 2 days, and I feel a little sluggish. I feel like I want to get out there and exercise and eat right and do those things, and because it elicits the best out of me. So that's my 3 things.
No, I love it, man. It's tough though to eat right when you're down at the shore. I don't know how you're keeping it tight all summer long.
It's why you always see a headshot today. Too many mango pizzas. You know,
it's crazy, man. No, and I love all that stuff, and it's so true. Like to really pour into yourself so you can pour into others is the ultimate gift you can give, right? And even the meditation to keep yourself calm, it pours over beyond those 11 minutes, right? And I know a lot of people that listen to this do meditate, but for those who don't, I mean, Headspace is an amazing place to go, especially when you're like me and you. Like I need that guided meditation, or my mind's all over the place. Like I'm in trouble if not.
No question. Although here's a little trick I'll tell you. So the other day I was meditating. I set my Headspace app, and I'm in my shore office, which is secretly my son's bedroom with bunk beds and a love sack, which is a massive beanbag. And I was like, oh, meditate in my son's beanbag. Right? In his beanbag, I throw my 10, 11 minute thing. And next thing you know, my phone's blowing up. It's 45 minutes later. I'm never late for anything. 5 minutes late for a meeting. I was like, oh, crap. Right? Like I got too comfortable meditating. So now I taught myself, I set an alarm 10 minutes after my meditation's done, just in case I I get too into my meditation. I get too relaxed.
Dude, that's not a terrible thing though. Every once in a while we got to slow down and we got to maybe take a nap. Let's just take a nap sometimes.
That's it. That's what people are going to remember. Forget all this finance jargon. Take a nap sometimes.
I did. Just go take a nap. No, but dude, I love your approach that you take not only to your own life, but to then your client's life, because, you know, to say that we've gone to happiness training and worked with therapists to understand how does the mind work and how do we find happiness and how do we tap into other people's happiness? Like, I love that freaking approach because there's not many people that do it. Most financial advisors are very X's and O's. And this is so much more than that. Not only do we build the wealth, but we build the happiness along with it, dude. And like, that's absolutely game changing. Now I wrap up every single interview with the same question, but before we get there, let's get to the important stuff. How do people find you? How do they get a hold of you? Tell them about your podcast. Tell them about all the good stuff.
Yeah, so I have a website, lifelongadvisors.com is a great spot to go to connect socially. I'm on all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. So Andrew Rosen, I think _CFP is the handle on a lot of it. But go to our website. I write a weekly blog, and I do this monthly wealth, health, and happiness interview series where I get really interesting people in one of those three segments, wealth, health, and happiness. And we talk kind of like this for 20 minutes or so and just learn from others. I think you can get a lot from that. I've gotten a lot from that, and I hope to give a lot. So that's it. lifelongadvisors.com. Go there. Thank you for asking.
No, for sure. And definitely check him out on Instagram. He's stepping his game up, folks. Like he's dropping hints and he's dropping tips and he's doing all the things for you in your life, which I love, man. And it's, you know, we hopped on here and I was like, oh, I see you on Instagram, just sitting down at the shore doing your thing. And I'm a little bit jealous because I'm still in Pennsylvania, but I'll be there shortly. So that's always a good thing. But like I said, man, I wrap up every single interview with this one question. Since the show is called The Growth Now Movement, the question is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
My biggest moment of growth was so the easy answer would be when I purchased our company, and that really took my career off more than I ever imagined. But the real answer, the gut-wrenching answer is when my father passed away February 17th, 2016, which was the low point of my life, not even in question. And my mom was a widow. I had to call my two brothers and relay this news. And for better or worse, the man that 6 months later, a year later, when I was able to actually let the dust settle, the man that came out was a substantially different human being than the guy who went in. So that was probably the single event that caused me to have the greatest growth as a human being in my life. And so sometimes through tragedy comes good things, and you know, I would not want to go through this again, but there is a silver lining to some regard.
Dude, thank you so much for sharing that, especially because 4 months before that was when my mom passed away and began my journey into becoming a better man from that rock bottom moment. And it speaks to who you are, because a lot of times when people go through that, they go down the wrong path and they come out worse. And it was really about you making a choice to say, what have I learned? And, you know, I think that's a huge lesson for so many people to hear. So thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for this conversation. I've had a ton of fun. I'm sure we'll have you back on the show in the future. But this has been an absolute blast, man. So thank you so much.
Justin, thank you, and thanks for your audience for tuning in. And you're a great friend and great guy, and I love your mission. So keep on putting the good fight, because you're doing great stuff out there.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.